Hey guys, it's Kurjun. And with 132 experiment on the horizon, I figure it's a good time to make a video about it. So with 132, effectively what happens is we're losing the off tank slot and we're gaining a DPS. We're also moving 3 of the tanks to DPS and they will have balance changes accordingly. What this does is this allows us to play different compositions and also break the double shield meta. So I'm going to give you a little bit of advice, a little bit of tips, a little bit of tricks, and a little bit of all the stuff I can think of so that you guys can have a one-up on a competition and you all can go into this experiment and have fun and see if this shit'll actually work. In general, with 132, what's going to happen is you're going to have lots of people that want to play whatever DPS they want to pick. And the trick to playing around that is to make sure that you're always playing together. The DPS need to make sure that they're constantly working together. So if you have somebody on your team who wants to play a hero that's not good or a hero that's off the wall, that's fine. But you need to make sure that you're working with them and trying to incorporate your pick into their pick. And that's what's going to give you the real power in this new system. Because effectively, we're losing a peel option, but we're increasing the damage across the board. So heroes are going to have different balance in this versus in the live server with 222. So whereas Mei is predominantly a powerhouse with Reaper right now, 132 eliminates that because you don't need the Mei and the Reaper unless your opponent decides to go into a fat comp. If they go into a fat comp with, say, a main tank and then D.Va, Zarya, and Roadhog with 2 supports, then main Reaper's power still is there. But if everybody's running one tank and playing DPS, which I think they will, you're going to have a lot of people that are playing DPS picks just to play DPS picks, and that won't happen very often. So main Reaper's value goes down. Here I have all the DPS that will be in this new 132 system. They are highlighted. The Bastion and the Symmetra are highlighted red currently because their value goes down exponentially. Everything else's value either goes up or stays the same. In the current system with 222, Bastion and Symmetra can function. Bastion and Symmetra in a 132 system don't function very well outside of tech options, which are very rare. But everything else predominantly gets a buff in the DPS category. Everything else will work well together. Everything else will be able to contribute. There are a lot of hero picks that lose value because that second tank is no longer being played. There are also a lot of DPS that increase their value because that second DPS is not being played, opening up the meta and creating more play options for us as a whole. So in this new system, you should avoid playing Bastion and Symmetra unless it's a tech option. But we can cover the rest of that here in a second when we look at the DPS evaluation. So when we evaluate DPS, you'll see there are multiple DPS highlighted. The ones in blue are the ones that gain exponential value and increase exponentially. The ones that are yellow become more valuable, but they aren't as good in most cases. The Bastion and Symmetra is still unhighlighted because I've commented on them already. And then the hero picks that are in green are tech options, things that you would only use if they were running more than 2 or 3 tanks. In this explanation here, these hero picks, quote unquote, would be tiered this way. The ones that are highlighted in blue have instant kill potential or mobility or cleanup potential. The ones in yellow are usually going to be the ones that have tech options or are going to be specific to a map. The ones that are in green are going to be tech specific to your opponent's composition, not as much the map. You're going to see a lot of teams run triple sniper, triple flanker, things like this of this nature. Maybe we'll see teams run 222, the classic 222, which is why the tanks aren't evaluated. Because the tank's value goes up the more of them you have. The tank's value goes down the less of them you have. When I evaluate main tanks later in this video, you'll see me constantly talk about how the tank value is determined by the number you have. So we'll cover that later. But in general, with the current system of 132, you're going to see a lot of McCree, Ashe, Tracer, Widowmaker, Genji, and Hanzo, which is what everybody wants. They want the high mechanical, high skill heroes. Mei, Reaper, and Doomfist's value goes down, though Doomfist could arguably wind up in the blue category. Mei and Reaper value going down is what people want to see, people want to play. It's more fun. And then the yellow picks are tech options that you can play that are available to you that might not be the ones you actually play, but they're there. One of the big things you want to be concerned with your DPS here is you want to make sure that you're complementing each other. So later on, I'll complement DPS in showing you some compositions, and we can talk about it later in the video. But for right now, just focus on the fact that DPS with quote-unquote high skill cap and fast kill times or cleanup times are going to be the ones that have the most value. The ones that need an off tank or something to support them are going to do worse, but they're also going to get an exponential buff because your opponents might not have that same mitigation tool. With D.Va, Roadhog, and Zarya's changes in the DPS category, we can assume they're not going to be as tanky or as utility based, and they'll be more damage oriented. So we might see D.Va with boosters and almost no matrix and pure damage. We might see Zarya with bubbles on a quicker cooldown, but they don't eat as much damage. Or we could see Zarya doing more damage with tracking on her left click and less health or less shields. Roadhog, we've already been given snippets. He's probably going to have around 400 health, and his take a breather and his hook are going to be adjusted to fit him more into the DPS category. So he'll be a CC Fat Reaper, is what we understand. And these are really, really good, and we can evaluate that later when we look at the actual 132 queue. But for general, this looks really good for everybody as a whole. We just need to make sure we're looking at the hero picks that are being adjusted based on the meta change, which is the lack or increased amount of tanks. So the big question right now is, does D.Va, Roadhog, and Zarya fit in the DPS category? And I think they really do. With the booster changes to D.Va and the way that her damage output is, if they retooled her defense matrix, she would be a great DPS character. Roadhog has also been in the category of he basically is just a 600 health DPS. If you call Roadhog a tank, you're lying to yourself. And Zarya, since Goat's meta, has always been played in the DPS slot because it's the highest output tank that you have when you run her. Zarya is never going to see play as long as there are two shields in play because her damage doesn't exist outside of the mitigation. So this is a situation where moving Zarya to the DPS role not only fixes double shield, but it also gives her a purpose again as a DPS tool and a damage option when you want to have a beefier damage line. And this also lets us run one DPS and three tanks again. So with that being said, that means we need to evaluate the supports. What does this mean to the support players who are still in 222? So what happens is players like Bridget and Lucio become tech options for only when you need speed for tanks. Player or heroes like Moira and Ana's value doesn't really change. Heroes like Baptiste and Zen's value goes up because they're duelists. They can fight DPS players on even terms while still maintaining heals and utility. The reason Mercy isn't highlighted here is because in almost every single triple DPS comp, Mercy is going to be the best support option when you have three mobile snipers, three mobile DPS, three pocket DPS, because what Mercy provides is not only the ability to relocate support and boost damage, she also applies the ability to res, so you don't need as much health pool, which is why Mercy becomes a quote-unquote god pick. So with that being said, Mercy's value goes up, and then the others become text to their situations. When evaluating the tanks, Orissa's value goes down exponentially. The fewer tanks you have, the less value Orissa is going to have, and that's purely because of how much utility she needs. Reinhardt stays in the middle ground, with him being one of the best tanks the more tanks you have, and one of the worst tanks with the less tanks you have. Sigma's value is the inverse of Reinhardt's. Sigma's value goes up the less tanks you have, and goes down the more tanks you have. With Winston and Wrecking Ball, they're effectively just giant DPS in the main tank category. So if you're a main tank and you have a team with lots of tanks, you can play Reinhardt or Orisa. If you're a main tank and you have few tanks playing with you, you play Sigma. And if you have lots of DPS and you want to go frag out, you play Ball or Winston based on what your opponent is playing into you. These things are what's going to make the 1-3-2 work for you as a main tank. You're losing some resources in your partner, but you're gaining more ability to play tanks as a whole. So here I'm highlighting the sniper composition, which think will get a lot of play. It revolves around having quadruple sniper and a single Winston to play the objective. You have a Mercy that can bounce and an Ana that is also playing as a DPS sniper. This composition will see lots of playtime on large maps like King's Row, Junkertown, and ones with open spaces. These are the maps you're going to look to see lots of value for sniper picks. His next composition is going to be the classic triple DPS dive, but with a new twist in Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball's insta-give potential, along with the finishing tools that Tracer and Genji offer, complement Mercy and Pharah really well. And then you can play a Moira that's a safe DPS pick on top of it. There are other picks such as Lucio or Zenyatta that could also fit, but this is just a suggested comp. Tracer and Genji are cleanup tools, Wrecking Ball, Pharah are setups, with Mercy being able to bounce, and Moira being able to be a DPS and a healer at the same time. So, with that being said, those are two compositions and ideas for you to take into 132. Go into it with an open mind and try and run some weird and wonky shit. This opens up old school metas of triple tank tracer. This opens up beefier compositions. It also nerfs heroes that were unfun. It increases the ability to playtime of Hanzo, Widow, etc. But keep in mind, the biggest thing that this does is take away double shield and make it so that the Q times for DPS will be faster. So make sure you're looking at that as a whole when you're evaluating playtesting and having fun. But don't get caught up on it. Compositions above, you can test those out. If you have any others, you can like, comment, leave them down below, and I'll give them a look. If you want to subscribe, go ahead. And I hope y'all have a good one. I'll post more Overwatch content on my YouTube channel, and you all can catch me here or on my stream. I hope y'all have a good one, and thanks for watching.